Yes, I
Yes,
am.
I am.
Sorry, yes, I am because we are. Thank you very much for joining us today in today's Pan-African History call. And my name is Dushime Yvonne, and I'm your host for today's meeting. Yes, as usual, we are going to start our meeting with a prayer. I'm going to pray in my local language. It's called Kinyarwanda. Like I'm from Rwanda, so my local language is called Kinyarwanda. So let's pray. Uwiteka Mana nziza, turagushimiye turaguhimbaje komezane natwe utwigaragarize duciye inzira hose utari mwami mwiza dore umugisha mu byo tujya kuvuga tuzabe twiyambaje mu izina rya Yesu Kristo. Amen. Yes, welcome back to everyone. Feel free to introduce yourself in the comment section, your name, where you are located, and the date you joined the movement. Yes, thank you very much. So today's meeting, we're going to have different speakers from different countries. Then after these speakers, we are going to have the Pan-African Healthcare class with Nana Akua. After the Pan-African Healthcare class, we're going to have the Pan-African History class with Dr. Tyrone Wright. So stay tuned. Yes, I can see that we also have our co-founder on the call. Yes, Mr. Sinclair can hear us.
Yes, I can hear. I'll give remarks after the reports and before the class. So definitely thank you and happy Saturday to everyone. Appreciate everyone joining us and can't wait to hear all the wonderful reports. And the reports are what? How many minutes are the reports?
3 minutes.
All right, so let's make sure everybody stays to 3 and under on the report so we can keep them moving forward. So if anybody's getting close to 3 minutes, make sure you let them know so we can keep it so that everyone has a chance to give full participation. All right, thank you so much.
Okay, yes, thank you. Yes, we're going to have our first speaker from Zimbabwe, Afiki Mbia. Can you hear us? You can unmute yourself.
Yes, I can hear you, Yvonne.
Yes, you're welcome. You have 3 minutes to present your results.
Thank you. My name is Afiki from Zimbabwe. My topic is the influence on media on shaping public opinion, fostering unity, and addressing misinformation. Good evening, good afternoon, depending on where we are. Right, media plays a pivotal role in any society in our day-to-day life. Media is strong and a powerful tool to cascade information in ways that are incredible. Hence, this is to say media shapes the public opinion in a way that is either negative or positive. This is so because not all what the media disseminates is true. That is to say, some promotes peace, some promotes not peace. And also sometimes people get wrong information due to fragmented information. That is the broken down information. Manipulated media to cascade biased information, therefore misleading the mass. I stand to say media was preliminarily introduced to let people be in the know, but it ended up becoming a tool to achieve personal interest. Therefore, media has influenced much of the negative things to our communities, especially here in Africa. We did not know of the substance and drugs abuse, but through media, all these things are now like a norm to us. And talking about unity, of course, we might be united on some platforms, only because we have converged together there, but fostering unity in on social media or media, I don't think there is much of unity, but there is much of disunity. Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. About unity, yes, we are united on platforms, but not on a common goal, common achievement or target. Public opinion is shaped by what comes to them, what they get when people say this and that, right? And these days, mainly I've seen it. Sometimes you might find someone whose house is burning and people are busy taking videos or shooting videos only for them to post on social media instead of helping those people to quench the fire, right? Some see people drowning, but they are able to take videos instead of helping the drowning person. So I think it is good and also bad. Why? Because it is causing a lot of damage to our communities. I think for today, that's what I can say. I am because we are. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Afiki Mbia from Zimbabwe. I am because we are. Yes, up next we are going to have the next speaker, who is Mulesuku Joseph from South Sudan. Yes, Joseph, can you hear us? You can unmute yourself.
Yes, thank you, Yvonne, for this opportunity.
Yes, you're welcome. You have 3 minutes to present your report.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I would like to say on this theme, which discusses the influence of media in shaping public opinion, fostering unity, and addressing misinformation, this is really important. But I would like to start by saying that any serious society that really wishes to survive and thrive, in my opinion, must take control, complete control of two important things, and that is information and their food supply. Information means controlling the education system and then the media, which the primary way knowledge is generated and distributed. Of course, controlling of food means controlling land and seeds. There are other things, but I think those are not important for the discussion today. So you definitely know that when it comes to information, media is very important because it is the means, it has the tools through which this information will reach various people. And media is controlled by those who own the media and also those who own the technologies. And when you look at public opinion in particular, media has the potential, and we know this, to sway public opinion. If the party guided is benefits the people, that is definitely positive. All right. In a commercial advertising, advertising the public common causes like what we are doing right now, media plays a vital role, definitely. Okay, in tourism, okay, it's impossible to generate revenue through tourism without the use of media extensively. And when it comes to public health, we know through COVID-19 campaigns that media can be a very useful tool in awareness, okay, and implementing public health measures that are aimed at controlling and preventing what? Diseases, okay, the spread of diseases. Now, when you apply this to unity, we can definitely say that it's easy to see that to mobilize and organize large groups of people is definitely very easy using social media. And we can conduct meetings like this one in order to strategize and to plan about ways to bring about unity. So again, this is a very positive thing when it comes to the use of media for attaining unity. And then to talk about misinformation, we know that the development of social media has made it easy for different people to create news. So there are alternative media houses, and everybody can create news, and this offers first-hand information to people, but also it offers alternative views that counter mainstream media, which it, most of the time has vested interest and it's controlled for the interest of a particular few who wants to maintain a particular narrative. So this is definitely positive. I don't know how much time I'm left with Yvonne.
No more time.
Yes, you can wrap up.
No, it's
right.
over. No more time.
All right, then. Thank you, Yvonne. I think God bless you. I am, because we are.
Yes, thank you very much, Joseph Mulesuku from South Sudan. I am, because we are. We are also live from Facebook. If you are following us from Facebook and you have a question, you can just write it in the comment section, then we'll be able to respond to you. Yes, time is not on our side. We are going to have the next speaker from Sierra Leone, who is Aya Alfred Komba. Yes, Alfred, can you hear us? You can unmute yourself.
Hello.
Yes, Alfred, we can hear you. Yes, we can hear you. You have 3 minutes.
Yes, sorry, my background is not good. I will not be using the video.
Yeah, okay. Yes, you have 3 minutes.
Okay. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. So from the topic of discussion, first of all, I want to start by commending the organization for bringing up that idea. Of course, the media is a broad topic, and it has its own negative and positive impact to society. It has a way to galvanize people together. It also has a way to split them and bring a lot of division. However, from the central focus, how can that be used to bring us together, to unify us? Well, there's way for use or misuse the media. For instance, the Pan-African class is organized to ensure we have detailed orientation about the essence of Africa's, what are the histories of Africa, giving us traditional lectures about our traditional product that can be used or herbs for treatment. These are all examples signifying the importance of using the media, which in diverse way is shaping some of us in our daily life activity, in ensuring that we have the necessary food intake that helps us with some other nutrients that are very essential in our body. To foster unity, I think also I want to continue using us as a medium for which we can also foster unity. The essence of the Pan-African class is to ensure that Africa is being unified and Africa defined itself as it was stated by PLO Lumumba, that Africa needs to redefine themselves. And I'm sure if certainly we that will be helpful for Africa and everyone in Africa, which can help us to at least foster unity. The history of Africa through Pan-African lecture on social media is a critical example that we can use. And addressing misinformation, well, this is the problem that is actually negative in Africa. Currently, the misuse, like for instance in Sierra Leone, there are all sorts of information you will get from the social media, example, the WhatsApp and the Facebook. If you are not well informed, then you'll be misled by some of this information that will lead to devastating condition in the future. So the influence of social media, it depends on the perspective at which someone is using it. But in totality, for me, it has better way to transform society. It has better way to unify society, especially Africa. So the Pan-African class is one of those examples that I can cite, and I'm sure it is helping to build Africa in a more transformed way. Thank you. I am, because we are.
Yes, thank you very much. That was our brother from Sierra Leone, Alfred Vomba. I am because we are. Thank you for that wonderful report. Yes, up next, we're going to have our brother from Ghana, Shahid Kasim. Yes, Shahid Kasim, can you hear us? You can unmute yourself.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much for the
Yes.
opportunity.
Yes, you're welcome, but you can on your video. You can turn on your video.
Okay.
Yes, you
Okay.
have 3 minutes to present your report. You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you very much for this opportunity. Today, I join my fellow Africans talk on the topic, to speak on the topic, the influence of media, both traditional and digital, on shaping public opinion, fostering unity, and addressing misinformation. And then first of all,
Sorry, Kasim, your video just went off.
oh, okay. I think I have a problem.
Yes. Yes, we can see you now.
Let me take this opportunity to extend my greetings to you, Madam Yvonne, to the co-founder, Mr. Sinclair, and to all my African contingents. It is a privilege once again to be able to speak on this topic. We all know how important the media is in shaping, public opinion, also unity, and addressing misinformation. The media have proven, to be instrumental in empowering individuals and social movements, facilitating online activism, and providing platforms for civic engagement. It provides a platform for marginalized voices to be heard and the represented perspective to gain security. It also keeps us connected to each other globally. It is as a result of the media that today we are able to connect to each other as Africans from different countries. Through the history class by Dr. Aram, and then the healthcare class by Madam Ikpa, certain myths about Africans and the Black race have been corrected. People are beginning to understand that the Black color is innocent. Madam, it's so very important that research has shown that children play crucial socialization skills during childhood, skills that naturally contribute to the formation of meaningful social relationships later on in life. We want to expose them early and unprotected social media. It rids them of forming meaningful social relationships later on in life. So it is very important that even though the media, just as water is a good servant, sometimes a bad master. So therefore, there's a need for trust and credibility in digital communication. Responsible information dissemination and verification is key to digital cohesion and development. Regulations should be put in place and strictly enforced to ensure responsible communication in the media space. Thank you very much once again for the opportunity. I am because
Yes, I am because we are. Yes, thank you, Shahid Kasim from Ghana. Up next, we are going to have our brother Jatta, who is currently in North Cyprus, but he's from the Gambia. Yes, Jatta, can you hear us? You can unmute yourself.
Greetings, family.
Yes, greetings. You're welcome. We have 3 minutes.
Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. I am because we are. I would like to talk on the topic unity as the core in the heart of mankind. In the generation we are, I would like to introduce the topic. Unity, a powerful and timeless concept, lies at the heart of the human experience. It is the force that binds individuals together, transcending boundaries of race, religion, nationality, etc. Unity serves as the cornerstones of social cohesion, progress, and even survival in these decisions. We explore the powerful significance of unity as the core of human heart. We will examine its role in fostering empathy, promoting collaboration, and addressing global challenge. Regards for this topic as Africans, for us to combine together is a leap of words. When it comes to the heart, it is never there. This is why African we find it difficult to bring development to our continent. For us to better achieve this, it has to be embedded in our heart so that whatever the lip is bubbling, it will reflect in real life. Unity fosters empathy. At its core, unity fosters empathy, enabling individuals to understand and connect on a deeper level. Empathy is the capacity to perceive and share the feeling of others, and it is a fundamental element of unity. When people unite, they acknowledge the community of their experience, and they share understanding can lead to greater empathy. Empathy is essential for the development of compassion, kindness, and tolerance. It allows us to recognize the suffering and struggle of others and motivate us to provide support and assistance. Unity encourages the practices of empathy as it teaches individuals to appreciate the diversity of human experience and promote the idea that we all interconnected. This sense of unity within the human heart is what enables us to put ourselves in order to and act for the collective good. Promotion of collaborations.
20 seconds.
Yeah.
20 seconds left.
Okay. All right. So with these regards, when Africans we united as one people, honestly, whatever we intend to achieve, we will achieve. Failure of unification among us, it will never be achieved. Thank you, sir, for giving me the opportunity to the forum. And I believe we as African advocates, we will endeavor to achieve this by showing to the world we are united. I am because we are. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. I am because we are. That was our brother Jetta, who is currently in the North Cyprus. Yes, we're going to have the next speaker, Omar Sanyanga. Yes, Omar, can you hear us? You can unmute yourself.
Glad to be here once again. And I will start by saying I am.
We can't hear you. We can't hear you. Can you speak up?
Hello. Am I audible, please?
No, it's very.
No.
Maybe give him a chance to get his speaker together and go on to another person.
Hello.
Yes, Omar, we can't hear you. You can speak up.
Okay. Like I was saying, I am happy to be here once again. And then.
Yes, still we can't hear you.
Yeah, the network is bad. The network is bad.
Why don't you go to another person? Let him fix it.
He was our last speaker for today. You can, yes, you're welcome. You can present also.
Well, let him say, can he fix it right now? Because I just, you can't hear him. That's the problem. I don't want to disrespect his time.
He just left. Yeah, he just left the call.
Okay, if he comes back on, let me know so we can give him a chance to say a few words. Again, greetings, our amazing, dynamic members of I Love Black People. Thank you all for joining us and definitely being a part of this, amazing group of people from all over the world. I think what's important as we talk about our Africanness, our Africanness is global. These borders that we call ourselves countries were not even created by Africans. They were created by someone else. So we will never limit who we are, where we are, based just on geographics. We've been circumnavigating the world literally since the beginning of time. And I say that in the context of not some type of Black superiority, but what we as Black people, as African people, we have what they call primacy. We are the first civilized people. We're the first people who figured out how to have a family and grow a community and use that as the foundation that people throughout the world have now continued. With that being said, our scope of I Love Black People is very clear. We're building a safety net all over the world, no matter where we find our brothers and sisters, that they can be safe from racism and Afrophobia. That means if they're in North Cyprus, that means if they're in Uganda, if they're in South Africa, no matter where we are as a people, we shouldn't live in fear. When we go to the doctor, we shouldn't be afraid that they're going to try to harm us. When we get pulled over by the authorities, we shouldn't be afraid if somehow someone's going to harm us. If we close our eyes and sleep, we shouldn't be worried about someone going to do something to us. So we want to make sure that everyone knows that we're leveraging at I Love Black People technology to help us build this safety net. We just came out with a new revision of our app on Apple Store and Google Play. Make sure you download the app because this app allows you to recommend Black-friendly places all over the world. So this is including in Africa, in Asia, in the Americas, in Europe. We want to make sure that no matter where our people are in the world, Australia, that they have Black-friendly, they have people who will treat them with dignity and respect. And we will not settle for anything less than that. And we're not going to wait for someone else to save us. I've had people tell me, well, Black is, race is not really real and there's really no race but the human race. I think all those is true. The honesty and the real thing is that scientifically, race is not, substantiated by science. But racism is real. People really are killing us. People are really harming us based on their perception of us being Black, by us being African. So we need to make sure we're doing deliberate things to stop those who are doing things to harm us, to protect ourselves. And we have our obligation to our children, to our elders, to our ancestors, and to our future children to make sure we leave this world better than we found it. We want to make sure that our people are treated better than they were treated when we first came into the world. And we have the tools. We talk about media. Media is not coming from the sky. The media is actually people. We're people. Those people who create the media are not smarter than us. They're not better than us. These are companies that actually own these media. We have the ability to develop and can create our own media. What we're doing right here with I Love Black People, we're putting out our own, having brothers. There's no other group that has brothers and sisters from all over the globe giving reports on Saturday of what's going on from their perspective. What we're creating right now is our own media with our own message talking about our people. That's what we're doing right here at I Love Black People. We don't have to wait for somebody to come save us. So often we're waiting for somebody else and we say media like it's coming from the sky, spooky. No, it's some people. When you say, next time here's somebody say, well, the media, no, there's some people saying. And if those people can say something, you can say something too. We got to stop this victim stuff. Like we're powerless and we can't do something. When we come out with books, you know, people talk about what the books say. Well, look, we need to make our own books. Sister Nana Akua, our wonderful, beautiful, dynamic, amazing sister, has a new book out. She didn't wait for somebody else to write what she needed to hear. She wrote it her damn self. I apologize for cursing. She wrote it herself. So what we got to do is take control of the narrative, take control. We're the adults in the room. No one else is. When we was kids, we used to wonder why this is why that is. Well, now we're the adults. There's no need to wonder now. Now we right here, we're all adults. We have all the tools that any of these media people we talk about have. And now we have technology that allows us to connect. Just think about when colonialism was going on. These colonizers was going place to place, killing, robbing, and stealing. You imagine if we had WhatsApp back then, we could have communicated to each other. Hey, if these folks look lost and thirsty, don't let them off the boat. We could have been communicating using technology. Well, we now have the technology to communicate with each other. If we see something that's not helpful, say something. And we've experienced it with the COVID, all these things that people have told us to do certain things, and we know there's certain things that aren't true. We need to tell the truth. So again, you know, this endeavor that we're inviting you to take part in is about self-determination. It's about us collectively working together. And just like Booker T. Washington said, we don't have to work together and think the same way. I love Black people doesn't care if you're a Christian, a Muslim, a Buddhist, or we can work together on so many things, no matter what our orientation backgrounds are. Our promotion is Black people working together to collectively protect themselves. And if there's people who aren't Black that want to help protect Black folks, we invite them to. Our bottom line is we no longer are going to have our children being harmed, our family members being harmed by anybody, by Black people, by any people, because our focus is making sure that we're building a mutual aid society. Ultimately, using our app, using our organizing, we're going to create, again, a safety net so that if you find yourself sick or you find yourself in trouble, you'll be able to reach out and identify people who care about your situation. And no longer do we have to live in fear. And we deserve this. This is not something that, you know, is just a trivial or, you know, something fanciful. We are determined to build this. We're determined and we deserve it. So again, we thank you so much for being a part of this. Make sure you download the app, because that's the tool. Now, again, technology is neither good or bad. Technology can be used to kill people, and technology can be used to help us. So we're not here to pray to technology. We pray to one God. We don't pray to nothing else. But what we're saying is we can leverage the tools to help ourselves. I've heard people complain about social media, TikTok, and all these things. Well, TikTok is not, again, it's not made by God in the spook cloud. TikTok is made by others. We develop algorithms, these things that are being used to harm us. We can do and create things that protect us. So we got to stop acting like powerless. So TikTok might be something that was designed in China, but we have people all over Africa, all over the Caribbean, all over the world that can design better than them. And if you look at many of these social media or the media, who do they use to promote their media? They use Black people. We're the ones that are being used to make TikTok famous. Ain't no TikTok dances from China. Ain't no TikTok dances from India. This TikTok is literally on the backs of Black people globally. And so we have a responsibility to be empowered to say, we're not going to allow those images of us to be used to harm other people. And we can control that. We can develop the algorithms. Because the TikTok people aren't like from Mars or outer space. These are just people who are sitting in front of a computer coding. And guess what? We got people that code too. So when I hear teachers or hear people saying, well, there's a negative influence from certain things, well, we have the power to stop it. These people are not smarter than us. They're not better than us. And on principle, they're on the wrong side of history. They're on the wrong side of God. If you really think about it, the negative things that are being used, all we're talking about is how do we use these things to stop harming people? So we can pray about that. I don't know if they can always pray about what they're doing with TikTok. Okay, some of that stuff is some foolishness. But my point is
because we're very serious about making sure in a Pan-African way globally that our people are not harmed. We can pray on that. We can actually say prayers. God, give us the strength to protect our brothers and sisters from racism, from humiliation, from being murdered in the streets. Those are real prayers. Now, imagine a TikTok prayer. God, make people dance silly, waste their time, misuse their relationships with each other. There's no prayer like that. So again, as we look at what we're dealing with, I want us to be clear that what we're doing and what we're involved is the right thing. You know, it's natural to want to protect our children. We're on the right side. What the people who are trying to harm us are doing, they're on the wrong side of everything. Ultimately, they will not prevail. So we have to be the ones building and creating something to replace the negativity that we see in the world. We have the power globally. There was a time where we couldn't even talk to each other and know what each other was thinking. We had to depend on our colonizers to tell us what was going on in Africa, what was going on in North America. Now we can talk to each other directly, and we can organize directly, and we can help each other directly. And literally leveraging technology allows us to do it in what we call zero marginal growth. The more people who are on this call, it doesn't cost us more money. So literally, it's no longer the old days where we got to use long distance phones. We can leverage these technologies and develop these technologies so that we can build the world that we want to live in and not wait for somebody else. With that being said, I am because we are, and I thank you so much for being you.
Yes, thank you very much. That was our co-founder, Sinclair Skinner. He just reminded us very important things that let's get involved in the right things, and we have the power. Let's use technology to protect us. Yes, I am because we are. Yes, thank you. We are going to continue with the Pan-African Healthcare class with Nana Akua. Yes, Nana Akua, you're welcome. And if you would like to receive a shout out from her, you know she likes teaching while watching black beautiful faces. Turn on your camera. Yes, you're welcome, Nana Akua.
Thank you, thank you. Good day. Hey, Yvonne. Hey, Claire. Hi, Collins and Tina, Christine, welcome, welcome. Thank you all for joining us today. And I see Monica has a pretty pink screen there. I guess anything is better than just the black boxes with the names in them. So, but anywho, I know we be doing other things while we're joining in. So grateful that you are here either way. So welcome. We are going to continue our conversation from last week, where we...
No, can you say something about the book or no? Have you done that? Please.
I have not. I have not.
Please, no, you. I mean, if I'm being inappropriate, just I'll be quiet because I get so excited.
You're not being inappropriate. I appreciate you for saying that. Well, so you all know that crystals are one of my favorite things, right? So we have discussed crystals, crystal healing, how to heal our bodies, our emotional selves, our spiritual selves, our psychological, mental selves with crystals, even our physical selves. There are some very powerful physical healing properties of crystals. So I have written a book. It's a daily motivational, meaning every day there is an affirmation that you can recite, and they're all crystal inspired, meaning using a crystal that has certain attributes. There's an affirmation that I created around that. And I too have to embrace technology, Sinclair. I always say, and I have a good girlfriend that's like, you sure it didn't work, or was it, human error, right? So there's a lot of times where there's human error with me creating things. But one thing that I am very proud of myself with is being able to utilize some aspects of technology. And I created some QR codes. So, you know, I like to talk, as most of you who join us regularly know. And so I wanted to do a book, but I also wanted it to have sort of that video component where you can actually see me and hear me talk about the topic. So I have embedded QR codes throughout the book, where you can, of course, read the book, but you can also scan on the QR code and watch a video of me explaining the book.
That's hot. Cool. That's what. See, we don't need to wait on nobody. Akua is showing examples of how we do for each other, not just do for. Because we say do for self, it gets weird. How we can do for each other, because she literally did it for us. She already knows it. So she added the QR code, leveraging what? Technology. Hello. So that we all can access something to help ourselves and help each other. Like that right there is a reflection or of what the point is. It's not technology for the sake of tech. I'm a techie. I mean, that's silly. I mean, excuse me, I apologize. But anyway, I apologize.
Yeah. And I am really proud of that, because I do think that that's really revolutionary. I think it's a really key difference in typical books. I mean, so I know some people are moving away from books and print media, but I'm like, but some people like to still pick up, right, a book. Right. So I wanted that aspect, but then I also wanted for folk who are used to just watching videos. So you mentioned TikTok. I'm not a TikToker, right? I'll watch whatever little free reels come up on Facebook, right? But I know some people just want to watch videos. They don't want to read necessarily. They want to listen or watch what people have to say. So I wanted to create. So for each chapter, which is coordinated by months of the year, whatever highlighted crystal, I did a video explaining that crystal. So, the book is called Chasing Joy. I find a lot of joy in just looking at beautiful crystals, but because they're so powerful and healing, God made them that way, right? They can be very healing and they touch on every aspect of our lives. So I feel like this is a way to increase your joy. This is a way to heal your body, your mind, your spirit. And so I wanted to make it as informational as possible, but also entertaining. Because again, this is sort of that age where, sometimes people want to be, and again, I'm more of an edutainer, right? So sure, I want you to be happy and entertained and enjoy the learning experience. So I wanted to create that aspect so that, okay, you prefer videos or you like watching things, let me give you something to watch. I even put some of the handouts on connected to the codes. So even if you don't have the book in front of you, you can pull up the Q code and have the handouts. So I'm really proud of that piece of technology, even though I'm not a tech per se. But yes, we can all use technology, even me.
Yeah, and you made a book. What they call it? Multimedia. See that your joint is multimedia. Did you do any singing?
What you think?
I love it. I love it. So again, yeah, okay. I can go too far, but thank you. Thank you, Nana Akua. Thank you. And please make sure y'all go out and get this book, support each other. And again, support, this is the love being spread. Like this is us loving ourselves enough to take what we know, the knowledge that Nana Akua has and sharing it with us is something that she does freely. And again, I think we need to keep supporting those who are willing to give to us. Sometimes she's saying chase joy, but sometimes we chase fools, chase idiots, chase things that ain't worth even being near you. So again, when you got somebody who's willing to love and spread and share and even talk about joy, like how often do we even talk about it outside of other environments, a joy? So again, thank you, Sister Nana.
I appreciate you. ChasingJoyBook.com is where you can get it. So if you are so inclined, I appreciate it. So thanks, Sinclair. So last week we spoke about different ways that we intoxicate ourselves, right? Different items that we find in foods. And I really took time, and I'm going to regularly include that in, because I sometimes just go through this really simple list of more of the obvious things that we may do that cause toxicity in the body. But I wanted, last week I spent time going over food colorings that cause cancer and nervous system disorders, affect the brain, affect different parts of the nervous system. We talked about additives like sugar, things of that nature, even gave some sugar substitutes, and just other things that we find in food, monosodium glutamate or MSG, these flavor enhancers that are also linked to certain cancers and other diseases. So I really spent a lot of time talking about the quality of food that we put into our bodies and the need to really be very intentional on what we put into our bodies and being conscious about reading labels and knowing what is in the foods that we are consuming and how that affects the body, how that in essence adds toxins to the body. And that will never help us to be as vibrant and as healthy as we need to be and as we want to be. We know that that can also impact our emotional selves. We also know that people feed their emotions, right? There's always a psychology behind eating and the psychology of food. Some years ago, I had come across an article called the Psychology of Food. And we know that these different foods evoke different emotions and they create a particular environment as to whether and it could go either way, whether it's a healing environment or whether it's a disease promoting environment. And so we want to be careful of what we're bringing into our bodies and reading labels, being mindful of that, and knowing that it will have an impact, not just physically, but also emotionally, spiritually, and in all other aspects of our well-being. Hopefully I was able to pull up our handout, and I think I have success with that. So now let's talk about what we can do to cleanse the body. So if we're talking about cleansing and detoxing, we sort of, and I know I just gave you a really, really rough, quick overview of the things that intoxicate us. Let's talk about the needs of cleansing and detoxing the body and then ways in which to do that, okay? So we know that there's internal, ways to cleanse, there's external ways of cleansing, but as always, we have to start with what it is or what it means to cleanse or to detox the body, right? So we know that we have to always have that general understanding of what we're referring to. So I always like to put good working definitions of things, right? And for this purpose, I pretty much use cleansing and detoxification interchangeably, but let's just know that there are some slight differences. So one combined definition of detoxification I have listed here: the process of removing a poisonous or harmful substance from the body or the neutralization of or mitigation of its effects, right? So we're either straight up cleansing it or removing it from the body, or we're putting in things that will neutralize it or make it no longer harmful, right? An excellent example of that is activated charcoal. You'll find this when people have had food poisoning, alcohol poisoning, different things. When they go to the ER, they will infuse activated charcoal, and it's more so to neutralize the toxins that are in the body. And then, of course, as it moves out and is moved through the system, even aside from the hospital, you can buy activated charcoal tablets or powdered charcoal, and it will help neutralize the harmful effects of whatever toxins or poisons you've entered or allowed to enter into the body. And so then you'll even see in your releasing your bowel movements, it'll be black, but it's then kind of flushed and removed all of that waste and toxins out of the body. Cleansing, a good definition of that is the process of making something thoroughly clean, ridding the body of unhealthy, unnecessary substances, or cleansing by washing. So we usually will use this maybe with purification, or, you know, you've washed something clean. You know, sometimes it may be a good example of this is, say, you're fasting. So maybe you've done a water or juice fast, and you're helping to flush out the body or cleanse the body, or wash out the intestines or colon with herbs or juices or other substances that will cleanse the body. And we know that when we do such cleansing, there are going to be side effects. There are going to be symptoms. Not all will be pleasant. So I think that it's important to be prepared and know that some of these symptoms will occur, especially depending on what it is that we are cleansing and how severe the toxicity is and for how long. But we know that a common side effect is headaches. If I had to pick one, this is a common one, or some kind of aches. Maybe I should just say aches or pains and group that all together. But we know that body aches, headaches, muscle aches, soreness, fatigue, all of these are very common when you're doing some type of cleansing or detoxification. But you may also experience body odor. You may experience bad breath. You may experience other forms of purging, and purging can be from either bowel movements. Not as often, but some people may vomit. That you know, that would be a severe, I think, reaction. But we know that the whole gastrointestinal tract is connected. So sometimes when we are impacted in the colon or backed up in the colon and it cannot move out freely or easily, then we know that it may come up in the other end. We know that some people will have skin rashes or breakouts or skin irritation. We know that there may be weakness in the body. So these are all common. Most times these will be mild. These should not be usually severe symptoms, but just know that these are common side effects or symptoms of detoxing the body. We know that we may use herbs or homeopathics to cleanse. We may do it with detox diets. We may use fasting as a way of cleansing. We may detox with baths, whether whole body baths or foot detox baths. Different types of massage are known for cleansing and detoxing the body. Those that are especially good for that are your like shiatsu massages, even your reflexology, your acupressure types of touch therapies. These are going to be good ways. Even deep tissue massages. These are all cleansing. Lymphatic massages, let me not forget that. That's a really big one. And these are usually your more specialized therapeutic massages that will also cleanse and detox and move stagnant energy and waste out of the body. And then skin brushing. These are all methods of cleansing and detoxing the body. And because we don't always spend a lot of time talking about the skin cleansing or detox, let me just say a little bit about the skin brushing. We'll talk in a second about the 5 paths of elimination, and we know that they are the skin, the lungs, the kidneys, the liver, and the colon. And so a lot of times, in addition to herbs, we know that there is a topical component to cleansing the skin, and that is skin brushing. This will also stimulate the lymphatic system, and this will clear away dead and dry skin cells. We know that we shed skin cells every day, so this helps facilitate that cleansing and that detoxification of the body through the skin. We know that the skin is our largest organ. It is our protective barrier. And so sometimes we take it for granted. We kind of ignore it. We don't usually give it enough attention. We're usually only thinking about our skin in terms of it when it breaks out, you know, when there's some kind of rash or some kind of skin irritation, a sore, a cut, things of that nature. But we have to always put the skin on the forefront. We have to observe our skin. A lot of times it is giving a reaction to something going on in one of the other paths of elimination. So if the liver is overworked, it will impact the skin. If the colon is impacted and is sluggish and you're constipated, it will impact the skin. If the liver or kidneys are not functioning well and you're not drinking enough water, or you're eating a lot of oils and fats and things are not processing as they should, it will impact the skin. So it's all related. Everything is relative. So we have to make sure we're focusing on the skin. Cleansing herbs that heal the skin, drinking plenty of water, and being very conscious about what items we put on our skin. We cannot take for granted that we can just put any old thing on our skin. And I am a big advocate against petroleum products on the skin. So I don't care that grandma and great grandma and all of our folk use this Vaseline. Now they've made it cool, and they have American actors doing commercials about that particular brand that usually, and there are other off brands that do petroleum jelly products, but this is a gasoline product. This is not going to be healing to your skin overall. Will it maybe cover up the dryness? And if you put it on your feet and you put some socks on at night, it may make your bottom of your feet soft, but this is not going to be ideal, because we know that this is not something we want in our body. So we are in fact intoxicating ourselves by using this and other harmful skin products. So your natural shea butters, cocoa butters, avocado butters, coconut oil. There's so many other good options that we can use if you're more prone to a lotion, water oil mix skin cream as opposed to just oil or butter. There are natural options now, and we know that they're working, and we know that our people are on to something, because now you have all these major companies that are infusing all of their regular products, right, with shea butter and with argan oil and with coconut oil and all of these things. And you'll even have some marketers that are poking fun at it. Oh, if your shampoo has, flowers and berries and argan oil, and they're kind of poking fun. Yes, it should have all those things, right? So, and these companies know it, which is why they've now added it. It's the same thing with these companies that make toothpaste and deodorants. They're now offering aluminum-free, right, options, because we know that aluminum in our skincare and our beauty care products is toxic, right? And so you should be finding aluminum-free deodorants and things. So they know that this is what we need. This is what's more healthy. So pay attention to all of those things that you're putting on your skin. So I already mentioned the paths of elimination. So we spent some time on the skin. So we know that the lungs, the colon, the liver, the kidneys, these are also crucial in terms of our overall well-being. So let's get into how to cleanse these other paths of elimination. If we were talking in general about cleansing and detoxing, you always want to have in mind what foods you do want to incorporate. Now, this handout is not, I'm not 100% in support of everything listed here, but at least it gives sort of some of the good options for vegetables and herbs and other foods that you can add into a detox diet. Specifically, if we're talking about the liver, we know that the liver thrives off of and is cleansed by foods like beets, carrots, apples, grapefruits, broccoli, limes, lemons, arugula, walnuts, cabbage, avocado, spinach, garlic, turmeric. We know that the cilantro. So we know that these are foods that are known to detox the liver. And what I'd like to insert here is if, for example, you're trying to figure how to incorporate some of these things, try something different. Arugula, for example, is excellent in salads. So, and not that we should really be using regular iceberg lettuce, which really has no nutritional value. You really won't see this listed as a healthy green to add, to your salads or to your diet. But as opposed to just say romaine or your butter lettuce or your red or green leaf lettuce, add in, or your spinach. All these are good options that I just listed, but also add arugula into the mix. Okay, you can even add a few sprigs of the cilantro. Add these to your salads. You don't have to just do your regular typical lettuce in your salads as your base. The mixed green concept means that you can add these other greens and get the health benefits of these into your diet. So there are really good ways to do that. One way to incorporate turmeric is if you are a lemonade drinker or a tea drinker, or if you like, say, ginger tea or ginger lemonade or something like that, add a few teaspoons of the turmeric powder into your ginger lemonade or into your ginger tea. Your apple juice or what have you. Remember, it will stain, so you want to be careful with turmeric, right? But turmeric is so healing in so many ways. Find ways to add that into your diet. If you're doing lemon water or lime water and you're adding cucumber or whatever, add a little bit of turmeric to that. Add a little bit of ginger to that. So there are just different ways that we can learn how to incorporate some of these things. And I know I'll kind of run out of time, so let me scroll through. We know that there are a number of different juicing and smoothing recipes, smoothie recipes for the liver. But again, those are some of the main foods to incorporate when we're talking about cleansing the liver. I mentioned turmeric. In addition to it being great for the liver, I would also add this to the kidney list as well. But it detoxifies the body, boosts immunity, cleanses and purifies the blood. And anything that cleanses and purifies the blood and cleanses the liver, know that that ties into the skin. So it is also going to be good for the skin, as we talked about at the top of the class. Well, and here it is listed. It improves the skin, improves circulation, is good for coughs and colds, and it also prevents internal blood clotting. So this is a good, excuse me, addition when we're talking about cleansing the liver. On to the kidneys. We know that foods like parsley, cucumber, celery, lemon, and even water, these are excellent kidney cleansers. Of course, there are a number of herbs that also address the kidneys. We've talked about herbs earlier in previous classes, but uva ursi, buchu, juniper berry, these are all good kidney cleansers as well. Dandelion. So you can always add or enhance, but some in terms of foods, if you're doing smoothies or drinks or making a fresh pressed juice, these are good options for cleansing the kidneys. Moving on to the colon, we know that most people, when they think about detox and cleansing, they are only focusing on the colon. However, that's important, but we know we have to address all the others as well. But some good colon cleansing foods and herbs are flax seeds, alfalfa, spirulina, wheatgrass, chickweed, Cascara sagrada, fennel, aloe vera, peppermint, fermented foods like kefir, probiotic yogurt, certain fruits. Mango, I'm not a big mango fan. If you love mangoes, great. I would just say this is one of our higher starch or higher glycemic fruit because it is a sweet fruit. So I would just say be mindful of that if you're having any blood sugar issues or cravings. This, of course, is better than a candy bar, so I'm not saying don't consume mango. But I would go for a more high fiber type of fruit if we're talking about cleansing the colon. So I would do more of a grapefruit, orange, apple, pear, that sort of thing. The ones that are lower glycemic and higher fiber is going to be, I think, a better option for colon cleansing. And in terms of stool, and let's talk a second about, see if I can turn this. We should always be mindful of what our stool looks like, right? We should always, take note as it's being released from the body and or observing it in the toilet. And you really want to have it be easily passed, soft blobs, you didn't struggle or strain to get it out of the body to release it, and it should look smooth and soft. Not that you have to manipulate it per se and do, really intense observation of the stool, but to make note of how it feels coming out and what it looks like in the bowl to assess whether or not you're having a healthy bowel movement at least twice a day. And of course, these extremes of it's hard to pass, they're hard lumps, nut-looking pieces, we know that is a sign of constipation. We know that that's not healthy stool. And in the reverse, we know that it's also not good for it to be entirely liquid and, have all no solid pieces and all watery constitution. So take note of what your stool looks like when it's coming out. So the lungs, this handout does not have a handout about lung detoxification, but we have to talk a little bit about that. We know that breath is one of those things that, thank God, we do not have to think about. It has both voluntary and involuntary actions. And so we know that one of the best ways to cleanse or detox the lungs is conscious breathing. So we usually do, and I'm a little choked up and I still got to get some coughing out. Then I'm just trying to get through this next minute. So I can't really do the demonstration with the breathing exercises today, but we know that conscious breathing really helps to detox the lungs. But we know that there are many exercises, and the Chasing Joy book has a whole, I think maybe 3 pages of different breathing exercises in the back of the book. And of course, you can Google and find different breathing exercises. But this is really important to get out any toxic gases that we inhale throughout the day, moving about the world. But then also there are many herbs, mullein, licorice, elecampane, eucalyptus, peppermint. There are many herbs that also will help to cleanse and detox the lungs as well. Plantain leaves. So there are many herbs that we can use, but conscious breathing is going to be really important in terms of cleansing and detoxing the lungs as well. So as important as what we put into the body, is also how we expel any toxins and any waste that we need to remove from the body. So let's be sure to do those things on a very regular basis so that there's a balance. We're not going to always consume what's good for us. But when we know that we've kind of gone off track, we have to put some special effort into detoxing and cleansing the body. And with each season, it's a good time to do that. So doing a type of cleanse or detoxification is excellent to do with the changes of the seasons. And if you don't have sort of the same kind of schedule of seasoning as we do here in the States, whenever you know that the weather changes or there's a difference, and there's still seasons, so even with any changes of seasons of where you live, do some type of cleanse. Okay, so I am out of time and I do have a couple of minutes. So if there were questions in the chat, I'll answer those. If you need the handouts I referenced today, I can email those to you. So you can also request that via email. And thanks for joining. And as always, I bid you good health and peace. I am because we are.
Yes, thank you very much, Nana Akua, for this wonderful lecture about cleanse. And there is a question, one question from Monica in the comment section. Maybe you can respond to them.
Okay.
Yes, we are going to. Okay, yes, thank you. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Yes, we are going to continue with the Pan-African history class with Dr. Tyreen Wright. Yes, Dr. Wright, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you, and you're going to see me in a second. I can hear you. Welcome to the Pan-African, thank you. Welcome to the Pan-African History and Organizing course. You'll see me in a second, but if you're already in the Telegram, I was about to say WhatsApp, but if you're already in the Telegram group, you know that I posted what I'm going to cover today. And I try to make it for every cycle. I try to make it plausible to at least address this once, because for the first 2 years that we did this, I did not, right? So if you can see in the group, and I'm going to open it up, you'll see me and you'll see the presentation I posted. I posted a presentation in Telegram on Thomas Sankara. Okay. And I'm not going to do it in the way that I did it earlier this year in the last cycle. I'm going to just go through the slides. The other time I did it, I actually I did the whole PowerPoint presentation. So all the information is there. It's what I've done different is just that I've given it to you so you can look at it at your leisure and process it at your leisure. But I am going to talk about it just a little bit so that we can understand the role of African women and Thomas Sankara's philosophy. Perfect time to talk about Burkina Faso. I think this is one of the reasons why you have progressive leadership there, period. Okay, as you all know, you have a progressive leader that I shared, a young progressive leader that I shared a few weeks ago in the context of the UN General Assembly. And he gave a very pointed speech with regard to the current affairs in Niger and pretty much the Sahel of Africa and Western powers, this sort of African spring of throwing off the cloak of colonialism. I'm sorry that you guys hold on 1 second, because I was moving around, and so you are going to see me. One of the things I'm going to do, hold on 1 second, because it's already open on my end. I'm going to go right to what I posted in Telegram. You'll hear me, and then I'll come on camera too. So let me share my screen. So I also, because I want you all to see where it is posted. And okay, you should see my screen. Okay, that was me and Yvonne conversation in there. Okay, so this is the presentation, just so you guys can see. That was last week. Well, the week before, right? So last week you referred to the Booker T. Washington Pan-Africanism and Pan-Africanist. But here's the Thomas Sankara presentation. And at home, if you happen to be using this, app in a way where you can access it on your computer, then you can look at it in the PowerPoint format as opposed to simply like this on your phone. I don't really know all the Telegram's capacity. So I don't even know if the app extends, if it's like WhatsApp in the sense that you can use it on your laptop or desktop computer, okay? But this is the presentation, and I'm just gonna speak through it. I'm not going to do what I did earlier this year, meaning that you have the whole presentation here. I essentially have given it to you so you can look at it on your own. But Thomas Sankara, an important figure in the context of African liberation struggles to know, okay? Once we get on the continent of Africa, last week we talked about Du Bois, how he ushers in this wave of consciousness around Pan-Africanism because he starts the Pan-African Congresses, right? Well, what's important to know once we get on the continent of Africa is that there's a number of Pan-Africanists who carry the torch, who champion the cause, and we generally go right to Nkrumah, right? I spoke about Nkrumah. We generally go right to Nkrumah, but I think there's some others that we need to talk about who are not in the fray at that moment in time, that are younger. Thomas Sankara is considerably younger than people like Kwame Nkrumah, Osagyefo, Kwame Nkrumah, and the other Pan-Africanists that would emerge. He's significantly younger than them, so he's not there at the time of independence. Burkina Faso gets its independence in the 80s. It's later, it's after that wave of independence, and he's attempting to actually have a revolution. Let's think of it in the way that Cuba has had a revolution. Thomas Sankara is attempting to engage in a people's revolution, a revolution of the whole entire society, where they throw off the cloak of colonialism and forge ahead. So he's looking for total liberation and transformation of his society, which is really important, because I think what's notable about what happens on the African continent is that we were prepared to throw off the cloak of colonialism, but we were totally unprepared for neo-colonialism, right? Colonial at the hands of people who look like us, who say they are us, and act completely in opposition to our interests, right? We're not prepared for that. We're not prepared for that in the diaspora, because we're definitely in a neo-colonial phase. We're not prepared. We weren't prepared for that on the continent. And so this second wave of independence in Africa is so much about throwing out those neo-colonial regimes that have gone against the interests of African people. And so while Burkina Faso seems like it was late in its independence, it is ahead in addressing neo-colonialism, because Thomas Sankara was doing that in the 80s. He was prepared for that struggle in that context, which is unique, okay? Because I think that's part of the reason why you see the leadership you do see in Burkina Faso. But my point of doing this presentation is, you know, the issue of women in the struggle, African women. And I have to say African women, because African women, Black women, are unlike any other group of women. I heard a scholar that I do respect say something to the effect that Black men are emulating white men and Black women are emulating white women. I respectfully disagree. When you talk about African women in the world, there are no women who are before African women, whether that's in our antiquity or in the contemporary sense. When it comes to waging struggle, we are not following anyone at all. We are the pioneers and the creators of the art of struggle, okay? And Thomas Sankara and his country, he particularly wanted to be clear about the people's revolution, including a revolution of how the women were dealt with, and that they would be liberated at the same time as the men, okay? Meaning the nation would not be liberated and leave the women behind in subjugation, just with new oppressors who now look like them. And some people might have a problem with me saying that anybody Black could be an oppressor. Absolutely, because it's about behavior. So he is looking for total transformation, and he knows that, you know, the women are essential to that. They cannot be left behind in that paradigm. So here we go. The upright man's philosophy on the liberation of women. So he talks about capitalism. Hold on. So he talks about capitalism and women, right? This is a quote. Most of this presentation is drawn from a speech he gave on International Women's Day in Burkina Faso, March 8th. And he would turn that into a national holiday and day where there was, or put it this way, a day of reverence for women and their contributions to the society, into the revolution, into the nation as a whole. And so on that day in Burkina Faso, March 8th every year, the women leave the market and they rest and they came to see him speak. And the men went to the market instead. And this is not some radical feminism or anything like that, because I would argue that he's not a feminist at all. But he had understood that the contributions of African women in Burkina Faso, like much of Africa, are uncalculable, right? African women are the first ones to go to bed. First ones to get up and the last ones to go to bed at the end of the day. So he is, sharing his thoughts and identifying that this key issue, which is the struggle, all right, our transformation of our societies and our people are not separate from the struggle of women. To liberate one's women is also part of liberating the people and the nation. And historically, as African people, when we've waged struggle, we always say, well, when we're done, we'll get to the women folks or the women issue. And that is fundamentally problematic and wrong. As far as Thomas Sankara is concerned, okay? The women's liberation, the liberation of women, is part of the struggle, okay? And to liberate the women in our society, in our community, that means for them to be unabused, unmaligned, unnegated, thriving, is part of the struggle. To have them fully realized is part of our collective struggle. So to have them oppressed, maligned, marginalized, oppressed, is to signal that we have not embarked on our struggle, we have not transformed, and we are an undeveloped people, okay? So the oppression, I'm quoting, the women's social oppression was a direct reflection of her economic oppression throughout the ages. Hold on, let me see if I could get the whole, because I don't think that's the, okay, yeah. Is that the whole thing? No, it's not gonna let me give the screen the full. All right, so I can't get the full quote. I'm gonna do it from my end, but he is talking about the fact that in the context of capitalism, the oppression of women is not separate, right? It's a direct reflection of their economic oppression in a capitalist society. And that is problematic because it's not separate, and we historically deal with it as a separate reality. All right, I'm gonna get on cam right here. So Thomas Sankara gives this speech on March 8th. I think it's 1984 or 87. And he shares some of those thoughts amongst many to thousands in the country at the time who gathered for this speech that he gave. I'm going to share 2 books too. Now, this is a film that you can see on YouTube, and if you click on it, wherever you are, it should take you to YouTube. It's called Thomas Sankara, The Upright Man. I'm going to show you a couple of books that you can reference. One is called We Are Heirs of the World's Revolution, and then the book that I'm taking this from, Women's Liberation and the African Freedom Struggle, which are two essentials as far as I'm concerned, and should be staples for all of us in understanding struggle on the continent and understanding our struggle collectively. I'm sorry, I don't have my stand and I'm a little, okay, there it goes. So for understanding the struggle on the continent and understanding our struggle collectively. So the women and men of our society are all victims of imperialist oppression and domination. That is why they wage the same battle. The revolution of women's liberation, the revolution and women's liberation go together. In other words, they're not separate. They are one and the same. We can't wage one without waging the other. Okay? We do not talk of women's emancipation as an act of charity or out of a surge of human compassion. It is a necessity for the revolution to triumph. Thomas Sankara, Women's Liberation and the African Freedom Struggle, Ouagadougou, March 8th, 1987. Okay. Similar philosophical lines by Pan-Africanists. Ahmed Sekou Touré, he wrote Women in Society. Amilcar Cabral, Women and Armed Militants. Women as Armed Militants in the People's Struggle. So both of these individuals, Ahmed Sekou Touré, who actually was working with Nkrumah towards the end of his life, Nkrumah's end of his life, meaning Nkrumah, after being ousted, his political ousting from Ghana, he would come and co-lead in Guinea under and with or beside Ahmed Sekou Touré. And Ahmed Sekou Touré had a very strong position about women as well. He talked about women in society. He discussed sexism, and he said the role of men in the context of sexism is to eliminate sexism. It is not the role of women to address sexism. Men create sexism, and it's men who must destroy it. So he talks a lot about ideological struggle internally within our groups. And why? Because he understands, as they all do, and as we should, that this is what allows us to achieve Pan-Africanism. We think a lot of people think that how we wage struggle is just about fighting our opposers or people who systemically oppress us or fighting those systems. But a great deal of the work, if you go back to the original definition that I give you for Pan-Africanism, it's unity for the purpose of eradicating oppression and exploitation, right? Well, we take for granted that that unity is already achieved. No, the unity is not achieved. Pan-Africanism is achieving that unity, but it's not simply unity. We unify, right? We come together to protect ourselves, to work on eliminating oppression and exploitation in every area of life. Right? So if the men are preoccupied with hitting the women over the head, and that's acceptable, then we can't unify because we've got oppressive behavior. And let me say in kind, if the women are hitting the men over the head, I'm sure there'll be comments about that. Even though we're not going to play like there is a death toll attached to some of the activities in our community, and we're not going to pretend like the men are the ones who are disproportionately suffering and victimized, meaning women may do things, but we have a death toll at this point, at least in the United States, where women are killed by their partners, men in general, so on and so forth, right? So just in the same way, we know the penalty for whatever we do or whatever we could think to do in society is not death. We know that in our interpersonal relationships and in our community, whatever we do and whatever we can think to do, the penalty is not death, right? And this is one of the reasons why I'm doing this presentation, is because I think we're very weak as a people everywhere we are on the protection of our women and our children. So it's essential, right? Like, I'm not going to do 7 weeks, 8 weeks of this course and never address the condition of women, when I know that women in Black and African communities disproportionately suffer in relationship to the other women in the world. And in spite of that, we are the most progressive women, most educated women on earth. Okay, so I got to speak on it. That being said, these men also spoke on it. Amilcar Cabral in Guinea-Bissau, which we're going to get to, he is involved in waging a people's struggle where the women are armed militants and struggle and wage struggle along with the men for nationhood in Guinea-Bissau. Okay, so it's not uncommon for African women. And this is also why we have to address this, because African women, Black women don't get the passes that other groups of women have gotten historically. So we always show up in struggle. And as you'll see, as I go on, you'll see we've always shown up. Okay. And then that becomes a plus and a minus. It becomes a reason for lack of protection, because these are women who have always had a commitment to their people, whether I talk about the Ashanti Wars or whether I talk about the 60% of the Black Panther Party that were constituted of women. The women are always showing up in mass. That's even if I talk about the protests of 2020 around the world, not just in the United States. African women, Black women, we show up. We are overrepresented. We answer the call. They say they need to do whatever, and we show up. They call a meeting for the men, and we show up because because we are never not on the front lines. We are never not making our contributions. We are never absent. So Amilcar Cabral talks about that. He philosophically said that, the liberation of women had to be a part of the struggle as well. The difference between these two leaders on the African continent and someone like Thomas Sankara is that Sankara put it on the national agenda as part of the revolutionary process. Okay? Let me say that again, because this is what you should come away from this presentation understanding this week. Thomas Sankara puts the liberation of women in the revolutionary process on the national agenda. He did not just mention it. Hey, we can't leave our women behind. No, it was part of the process. So when you think about Cuba and their revolution, well, think about Burkina Faso in the same way with regard to their revolution and the condition of women and the liberation of women in every single way became a part of the national agenda. He is the only of the continent's Pan-Africanists to do such a thing. Okay? And we all know, or we don't all know, maybe we don't all know. If a group of people, a nation, the phrase is you can only rise as high as your women. So if you have a community of people, you have a nation of people who systemically and deliberately subjugate the women, you know that this is an undeveloped and immature group of people. Okay? There's no other way to say that. Some of our oldest, or not even oldest, some of our ancestors in the 18th and 19th century were very clear about this already. And unfortunately, it seems like presently we're regressing because it is in vogue to talk of having the submission and domination of women as part of, you know, our intimate and personal relations. That only denotes that the person is regressive as opposed to progressive. That only denotes that you're undeveloped as opposed to developed, you know, basically, okay? So Thomas Sankara had allies philosophically in Ahmed Sekou Touré and Amilcar Cabral, who both are not his contemporaries, okay? Both are before him, precede him, but he takes things to a new level in understanding that this must be part of his nation's revolution and agenda, national agenda. A word on Marxist and Leninist philosophy and African people. It's important for me to address this because if you even scratch the surface of studying about Thomas Sankara and his position on women, you know that there are plenty of people who try to come out and talk about how he is Marxist-Leninist, how he is like many Pan-Africanists before him. And he is, you know, he answers that in the sense that he talks about, he addresses the issue in the sense that he is trying to be effective as opposed to committed to anybody's philosophical line, okay? So he recognized, so let me say it again. He recognized that many of the things in the liberatory process there are rung of Marxist and Leninist lines and philosophies. His attitude about that was like, I do not care. I'm doing what works for my people. So he wasn't a strict adherent of scientific socialism as espoused by Nkrumah. He was someone who saw himself more as a practitioner who was committed to the liberation of his people through a complete change in terms of what they had previously had. So for example, he begins to use only materials that are produced in Burkina Faso. The clothes that they wore were produced, that he wore, were produced by people in Burkina Faso. The food that they ate, he promoted the industry, right? Industry in Burkina Faso, as opposed to importing Western goods and services. And so his attitude is that if that makes me a Marxist, so be it. I'm less committed to the philosophy than I am to the practice of us producing what we consume and being a free and liberated nation and taking the French hands out of our country, okay? That was where he was at with it. He was less committed to saying he was a Marxist or a Leninist in comparison to being a person who was for the liberation of Burkina Faso, okay, and independence and total independence, right? Not interested in some neo-colonial paradigm. So he acknowledged dialectical materialism. He acknowledged scientific socialism, but he also acknowledged that Marx critiqued the oppression of women in society from his European context. And so Thomas Sankara is never interested or was never interested in living or practicing from a European context, okay? He, in the same way that he is requiring the Burkina Faso people to wear their own clothes that they produce, eat the food that they produce, he's also interested in Burkina people coming up with their own solutions to resolve issues in their nation, okay, as opposed to utilizing someone else's philosophical line. Now, let me personally, so that was Thomas Sankar's thing, right? My personal position is that we should be slow to completely adopt the Marxist and Leninist line, because of the simple fact that Marx and Lenin were not thinking about you or I when they wrote what they wrote, when they said what they said, or when they were doing whatever they did, okay? They could have cared less about you and I or any African, and maybe, possibly, had they thought what they espoused or wrote was going to be useful to African people, Black people, they may not have espoused or wrote it. You know, some people are like that. They were not thinking about us. And I say that to say that means that the Marxist Leninist line is not about African people, and African people were not on the minds of those who espoused it in any way, shape, or form. So that's all we need to say about it. It could never be a perfect fit, even though there is a critique of a material struggle, a proletariat struggle, you know, all of those things. Yes, that's not unique to Europeans. We're the oldest people on the earth. We know about producing. We know about sustaining ourselves. We know about hierarchy amongst people. We know about class struggle prior to the Marx and Leninist critique. Okay, we are the oldest people on this earth. We certainly know about class struggle amongst African people. Now, do we acknowledge it? Do we want to acknowledge it? That's not going to be promoted when you're in a neo-colonial phase, right? Why? Because it is the African aristocracy and bourgeoisie who have been coddled by the colonial establishment, who want you to not think about class and caste and hierarchy amongst our people. They become the conductors of exploitation between European nations and African nations, territories, and even literally Black communities, okay? So they don't want you to think about class struggle, right? They don't want you, but it has always existed. If we go back to ancient Kemet, we knew that there was a pharaoh. We knew that there were priests, okay? We knew that there were people in service to the pharaoh and that there was a hierarchy. This is not unfamiliar to African people. We're the first to have civilization on the earth, right? And I know the Egyptian, the Arab Egyptian at this time is trying to say that the Black African person is not the progenitor of civilization as it was in ancient Kemet. I argue against that. You know, what else would Africa be than Black? All right, what else? What else? Okay, so that's total nonsense. But anyway, I digress. African men and women equally oppressed under capitalism. So in other words, capitalism is not a respecter of our individual persons or our gender. It oppressed us both, African men and women and children, equally. We were commodities. I always have students in my history classes previously, and they would say to me, oh, but you know, capitalism is good, or this or that. And I would always say, like, okay, let's talk about that. Capitalism is good. So the capitalism that you, being born in the Western Hemisphere, are a product of is the form of capitalism that made you the commodity. And so you tell me if that is good. Okay? Is that good? That you are bought and sold. You are the very commodity that this capitalist society was built on. And that is very problematic, right? So under capitalism, both men and women African men and women, Black men and women were the commodities and were equally oppressed. Specific character of women's oppression. What he's talking about here, and all of this once again comes from Thomas Sankar's speech delivered on March 8th, 1984, 1987. I believe he's killed in 1987. And he gives some very unique distinguishing characteristics of how oppression plays out. So this is 1987, okay. He gives some distinctive characteristic of how oppression plays out for African women specifically under the hands of our own men, our own people, okay? And yes, in order for us to be better, we've got to critique, because there is no transformation without critique and without critical thinking, right? So the exploited man and woman, the fate of women is intertwined with that of the exploited man. They are historically bound together and therefore interdependent, not codependent, interdependent, okay? Both men and women are condemned to silence in their economic exploitation / condition, meaning under capitalism, you're supposed to serve, be exploited, and not say anything about it. That's the consistent paradigm, right? We're not supposed to talk about how oppressed you are, how exploited you are. But shut up, grin and bear it. And historically it has been that way. So, specific character of women's oppression. The worker wife is condemned to silence by her worker husband. So she can be in the workplace. She is oppressed and exploited by the system, but she is also oppressed once she is in the context of her own home and community, because as they used to say, the Black woman was the slave of the slave. Even when the men who were enslaved came back to the slave quarters, even though they were under someone's foot in the field and on the plantation, when they came back to the slave quarters, even they had someone under them, and that was the Black woman. So they're talking about the worker woman being oppressed and systematically exploited in society, only to arrive home and still be subjugated by someone, and that would be her worker man, her worker husband, okay? In addition to class exploitation, women are confronted with an additional layer of relations of conflict and violence that use physical difference as their pretext. In other words, any woman on here, it's a no-brainer. Men are physically, generally speaking, stronger than women. So violence becomes a pretext from these interpersonal relationships or these intimate relationships, right? And so there's class, and then there's another pretext. There's another context, relations of conflict, meaning physical, and we all know this as human animals. This is why people talk about people physically fighting, meaning you can't use your words. Well, there's another dynamic and context to human interactions. When people don't get their way with words, or when people are aware of their physical dominance, they use it. And so we know this all over the world. This is not something new. I'm not saying anything new, that men in some instances and sometimes deliberately in a misguided characteristic of some realities we have, meaning there are misguided elements, okay, in our community, here, there, everywhere, all over the world, where that is somewhat of a cultural thing, you know, an accepted cultural thing to violently address women, okay? And I would love to challenge this because I know that as a fact. Not that that happened to me, because it's never, but the point is that I could speak from the African context in America, where some older sisters made it clear to me that I was way too young to understand the subjugation of Black women by Black men in the Black community, and how violence was very much a part of that, okay, at a certain time, right? It was an understanding that a man could discipline his woman, whereas now it is unacceptable. But we have another dynamic, particularly in the United States, where that comes, you know, where that has played out. The men are not disciplining the women, but we have a homicide rate that is shameful of Black women by Black men, okay? And we don't want to talk about it, so it exists. We pretend it doesn't exist, so we think it's going to go away. It's not going to go away. So we have to understand, part of us doing those kind of things to each other is part of the pathology we have inherited from being oppressed and exploited in a capitalist society, where we think that there's something worth more than human life. Okay? And there's nothing worth more than human life. Life allows you the range of possibilities. You know, so once again, the way we can understand is a consensus on the ground for the lives of Black men, that there's nothing they could do where the penalty is death. Likewise for Black women in our communities around the globe. There's nothing she can do where the penalty should be and must be death, okay? All right, so exploitation of natural differences between women and men and women, employs the same tactics of class exploitation to maintain domination over women. These tactics are identical to those employed by men to rule over other men via ethnicity, race, family origin, birth, race, divine right, etc. In other words, the exploited male uses these tactics of domination to maintain power over women in our community. We're talking about we're talking about in our own context, not talking about other people. So Black people, African people, everywhere we are, the exploited male employs the same tactics of class exploitation to maintain domination over women. Meaning he's earning, she is not. So in the household, she is subjugated. She is dominated by him. She is not on par or equal to her man. Okay? These tactics are identical to those employed by men to rule over other men. So I'm going to say it plainly, by European men to rule over Black men and African men, okay? 4 profiles. 1, they commit women to chastity via religious customs, traditions, moral doctrines, etc. Oh, I'm way over. No, hold on. Let me see what time it is. Okay. I am over, but I'm going to stop here. As a means of domination, the pleasure seeker who avoids the responsibility of a home, family, fatherhood, or moral responsibility, right? So these are profiles of our men who have taken on the persona or the position of Eurocentric culture, white male, and perpetuate some of these same things in our community. Where does this come from? This all comes from Thomas Sankar's speech. This is what he breaks down in his speech on African women, women's liberation and African freedom struggle, right? So he's talking about the day-to-day that our women face, particularly in Burkina Faso, and struggling against. So these are male profiles that are reality in that context, and we can see it in other places too. The pleasure seeker who avoids the responsibility of a home, family, fatherhood, or moral responsibility. The practitioner of misogyny, subject women to vicious public attacks while engaging in the utilization of women for sexual gratification. All of these are very self-explanatory. I'm not expounding because I don't feel like I need to. Polygamy as a means of exploitation of women. We can go on and on all day. Let me just be clear. On the continent of Africa, there are different expressions of polygamy, some more favorable to the women, some not favorable to the women at all, okay? And therefore very exploitative. I won't say any names, but there's several instances on the continent where we know it went wrong. And I would say for those diasporic Africans, don't discuss polygamy, because if you don't have the values, if you're born in the United States, you do not have the values to undergird such a practice. It's not based on libido or your level of desire for variety. That's not what it's about. I lived in a polygamous society. I know quite a bit about it. Point being is that it's not none of what people are saying it is here for the most part. What brings you to polygamy are your values. And it really primarily for us as an African people was meant to serve our agricultural realities. If you are an urban dweller, you have no business talking about polygamy. That is outmoded in some places on the continent because of the urban reality. It is certainly outmoded for a context like this where the people don't even have the values to undergird the practice. So just take that out one's mind. If you got a mistress, you got a mistress, and you need to get yourself together. But don't try to call it polygamy, because polygamy really actually meant to serve a purpose in its healthiest expressions for agricultural people. Okay, so I think we do an injustice when we think that we are qualified to even discuss it and have never been in proximity to it, don't know anything about the values that undergird it. This is an image in Burkina Faso of the women who had joined the military during this revolutionary period. It just illustrates that in the same way that he is saying that the women now must go to school, the women must also work in the factory, the women must be in political life, and more than just as a leader of some little committee. They are able to represent the people in the same way that the men are able to represent the people. He also felt a necessity for the women to be allowed, if they chose to do so, to be in the military as well. Okay? All right. So it's not a matter of just putting the women out front and the men sitting back. That's not what he's trying to do. And I want to make that clear, because I did this presentation and some people were like, oh my gosh, I don't identify with this aspect of it, but it's not about that. This is a documenting of the facts that the women did move into military life, as well as all the other aspects of life in Burkina Faso. Okay. So women engaging in protests at one of the factories, the plants there in Burkina Faso. All right. Women in, so this is another struggle. This is Guinea-Bissau, and some of you who know what he looks like, this is Amilcar Cabral, along with another woman who is a field marshal in the struggle in Guinea-Bissau. Here are women, armed militants, side by side with men in their country. Some of these women, you see, there are children in camp, and I'm not glorifying this. This is just what the reality was. Black women, African women have never been able to opt out. Okay, they have never been able to opt out, right? So this is just like in the context of the Ashanti Wars, that when the men were tired of fighting, the women stepped in, right, and fought the last of the Ashanti Wars. They didn't say, oh, you guys lost. They said, okay, we're stepping in, right? And this is why when people try to talk about Black women following European women, I always think that that's asinine, because you're talking about the progenitors on this earth, African women. There are no women for us to follow. There are no women for us to follow. We're the first women, okay? And the first women to perfect the art of protest, the art of struggle. We are leaders in terms of rights all the way back in antiquity. There's nobody for us to follow. We don't even know to look to Europe, right? So yes, I feel like around the world now, Black women are bombarded with images on the aesthetic end to fashion themselves after non-African women. However, in terms of practices, what we have always done historically and presently in terms of our contribution, there are no women for us to follow. I've read numerous books on women leadership, just the history of women in the world. And those European women, some of the ones who wrote these books, they had to start with ancient Kemet, with our antiquity on the African continent. There was no written record of progressive women in the world prior to that of African women. I mean, we're the first people, and it was certainly, it goes without saying, we would have the first civilizations, and from that would emerge women who would be the first to do all the things that you can think of, right? So freest of the ancient world, and probably the most progressive in life, not probably, but most progressive in struggle. And we know certainly here, the strategies and tactics that come from a Anna Julia Cooper, a Mariah Stewart, who are talking about rights and freedom of African women and women's rights, predate anything white women in America in particular were doing. It was the enslaved African woman who was talking about women's rights before she was even free as a human being. So we don't have anybody to follow. I don't know, it's not a clear, easy comparison. If Black men are looking to white men, as a measure of freedom, then Black women are looking to white women. No, it's not that way at all. Black women are ahead of those women and every other group of women on this earth. I'm just going to be keeping 100% real. The historical facts bear that out. Period. So that's well documented, right? Those feminist groups will tell you who their foremother is. Sojourner Truth. Who is she? She was an enslaved African woman, right? They will tell you who they stole their strategies and tactics from. So, we don't have anybody to follow at all, ever. So this is just to call the names. Well, these are two women who actually fought. They were field officers in the struggle in Guinea-Bissau. One of them, Anna Gomez, she does make it through, but a few others who are in this image passed away in the context of struggle against the Portuguese in Guinea-Bissau. But you can see how integrated, this is an all-woman group here with none other than somebody, if you don't know who he is, you will learn about him shortly, Amilcar Cabral, okay? But also we bring it back to, or bring it out to the diaspora. And these are none other than the women, some of the women in the Black Panther Party, you know. And the critique I'm giving today is most notably to address the fact that we wrongfully think that, you know, our struggle is separate from the liberation of our women. No, absolutely not. That is something we've gone terribly wrong with out here in the diaspora. Okay, and what it has done to the sisters who participated in organized struggle, it made them victims of the men contradictions within those groups and organizations. So the misogyny becomes weaponized against those very men, right? Meaning the men have misogynistic tendencies, and we are waging struggle for our total liberation as a people. Well, the system can see that misogyny exists, and it becomes weaponized against those very men, and it is used to destroy deliberate organization of African people and Black people. Much of what destroys the Black Panther Party is the misogynistic internal contradictions that existed, in spite of the fact that although you may see the Huey Newtons, the Bobby Seals, the Eldridge Cleavers, who else? The Black Panthers in New York. Although you may see the images of the men, right? The Fred Hampton, so on and so, the masses of the Black Panther Party were women. They were in mass. They were the foot soldiers. They are what made it work. And for one moment during the history of the Black Panther Party, they had a woman who was chairman, and that was Elaine Brown. Okay. So, you know, but the internal, so if revolution means total liberation, what has to happen is we have to also give up the chauvinism, the misogyny, all of that, because that is indicative of a different culture. Okay, let me be very clear. Chauvinism can exist anywhere, but the hate of women, misogyny, blossoms and blooms in Europe. That is very distinctively European, to hate women. I'm almost afraid to write the history of it for those who want to identify with Europeans, but I can place it historically directly in European culture. And so when that rears its head in our organized efforts against oppression, it is destructive to us. Okay, so you had a lot of domination and abuse of the women in the Black Panther Party as a result of the system being able to play on the misogynistic tendencies of our men in those organizations. And so this is why that struggle, that internal struggle, is necessary. When we transform ourselves, we want to do complete transformation. Right? Addressing the condition of women and the issue of sexism is not a separate issue, because it's an issue that can destroy us internally. Ahmed Sekou Touré was correct about that. So part of us achieving unity is dealing with those internal contradictions that would lead to our collective destruction. And as it did. So once again, just more imagery on the women in the Black Panther Party. Just documented. And to the far left, I think Eldridge Cleaver, who was problematic, if you know anything about the history. Was very problematic individual. You know, very problematic individual as it related to race, women, and all of these things, right? but they were there. And then also in the civil rights movement, women, once again, were in mass, in spite of the fact that Martin Luther King, while he understood the sole individual who undergirded and made his work possible was who? None other than Ella Baker. But you don't know her because of the simple fact that it was a very chauvinistic environment, the civil rights movement. And while the women are there in mass, are the foot soldiers are the majority, are the constant force, King in particular was very clear that he did not want the women to be visible. He didn't want visible woman leadership, right? Now he transforms that later in life, and Maya Angelou writes about that. But very early on, and for majority of his during the majority of the time of his leadership and visible leadership, he made it clear that outside of his big six, and well, along with his big six, who were all men, he would have no women in visible leadership positions, even though his entire position is created and sustained, meaning all the organizing that he would stand in front of, the nonviolent protests, the going into cities, to having waves of people absorb violence. All of that work was done by one woman named Ella Baker. Okay? So, once again, internal contradictions. And then, of course, I'm going to just say what people don't like to say. Part of how they infiltrate, not even infiltrate, but disrupt the work that King is doing, the FBI, is because they're able to exploit his personal life, which was full of contradictions as it related to women. Right? I'm going to say, well, listen, you can't be a womanizer without being somewhat of a misogynist. All right? The intention there, you can see women as bodies only when you think they're less human than you. Right? And if you are a misogynist, you delight in utilizing these bodies that are anti-you. Okay, so listen, we're going to keep it real in here, because I definitely always like to take a pause in our sessions and do this, because we are suffering so much internally from these type of issues around our people, but I don't see too many people talking about them. I don't see too many people taking action, but I do see a death toll in a context, in the US context. I know there's a death toll in other contexts around the world. And we're not talking about it. We're acting like the lives of African women who contribute so much. We are the Black community. And I'm talking about on a numerical level, right? Around the globe, Black women are in mass in every Black and African community on the earth. That's undeniable. We are in the majority. I don't know that we should act like it, but we need to have the kind of conversations that say we're going to preserve our lives just as much as we preserve everyone else's lives. And our lives are worthy of preservation as well. And so it's not a separate part of the struggle. This is what I'm talking about. Gender-based contradictions derail total liberation. Historically, organized freedom and liberation struggle have not made the total liberation of African women a part of the revolutionary process. This is where we've lost it. We think that when we're done liberating ourselves, then we'll get to the issues with the women. No, that the issues with the women and the men are indicative of the fact that we are in need of revolution and need to throw off the cloak of colonialism and all of their values with it. Okay? it signifies that. Those contradictions signify that we are in need of the revolutionary process. And we need to reference the best of our own history and culture as it relates to our women, okay? The liberation of African women is a finalizing process. It signifies the liberation. It signifies that we have achieved liberation. Because the only thing that will make one reject the liberation of women is that you still have a colonized mind. You still believe in patriarchy. Even though the oppressed Black and African male still suffers under the patriarchy of white men. You know, so I'm going to end there. You all can look it over. Okay, I gave one last word. The last word, Thomas Sankara, one of the most progressive leaders and thinkers of all time. Locating Sankara in contemporary theory. I already did that pretty much. You know, you have Amilcar Cabral, you have Ahmed Sekou Touré. And I would argue more a womanist than feminist, because there are many white female scholars who have jacked the philosophy of Thomas Sankara and trying to call him a feminist and trying to say that he is aligned with their feminist thinking, views, and values. That is incorrect. He would be more a womanist, which is defined by the commitment and the primacy of the community in our struggle, as opposed to the primacy of a woman, or chauvinism, the primacy of the man. Womanist thinking and values centers the community, which means all of us, man, woman, and child, right? As opposed to a hyper-individualistic philosophy or a hyper-individualist philosophy like feminism or chauvinism, right? Me, I, right? Okay. I'm going to end it there. I'm going to say hi to you guys on camera real quick. I'm going to see if I can take it off here because I don't know what I'm doing. Let's see.
Miss Dr. Red, can you hear us?
Thank you for those of you who stayed to the end. Yeah, I'm back. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so thank you for staying the end. I'm shamefully over, right? It wasn't supposed to be an hour. I was supposed to do that real quick and be done. But I'm glad those of you, many of you stayed to the end. I guess I can't see any comments that came up from the last session because I'm just coming back in. But I appreciate it. Are there any questions, comments about anything in that presentation?
No, I can't see any comment.
Okay, great. All right. Well, not great, but listen, it's something that we have to do, right? If anybody lectures or covers the condition of African people, Pan-Africanism, or anything like that, and leaves out the condition of our women and some of the present situations that go on in any of our societies or communities around the globe, then they're not truly committed to the struggle and liberation of our people. Bottom line. Okay. All right. So thank you for staying until the end. I am because we are.
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Wright, for the lecture. Yes, stay safe. I am because we
Thank you.
are.
I am because we are.